Hello everybody, I am TheAirsoftTech and welcome back to Epic Upgrade Time. Today we will be continuing with part 2 of our 4-part series VFC M27IAR Epic Milsim build. On the last episode of Epic Upgrade Time we installed SiegeTech 10:1 SSG gears, a ZCI base 28 TPA Franken torque motor, an SHS 15 tooth steel rack piston, and a Lonex version 2 cutoff lever. On today's episode of Epic Upgrade Time, we will be installing an SHS M120 spring, an SHS version 2 tappet plate to replace the cruddy VFC clear tappet plate, an SHS version 2 aluminum air nozzle, a Kelly Colburn 3034 based MOSFET, and a ZCI full cylinder to accommodate the huge barrel in the VFC M27. The first thing I installed was the MOSFET, and as a side review, we're going to take a look at it real quick. I am a big fan of this MOSFET. It has a lot going for it. It's cheap, small, incredibly durable, and it comes with Eco wire. For those of you who are not familiar with what Eco wire is, it is the same wire that Blacktown Concepts use in their Spectra and Chimera FETs, so it's some incredibly awesome wire, just to make it a short story. The only real downside I can think of to this FET is that it doesn't come with enough wire to run the other positive wire from the contacts to the motor. As you can see, I had to use some Turnigy 16 gauge silicone wire I have to fully install the MOSFET. It works fine, so there's no problem here, but I do wish there was some more Eco wire to go around. Now, results may vary. You may have enough wire to go around depending on where you want to place your FET. However, I had to place my MOSFET quite far back down the buffer tube, meaning I didn't have as much wire left over. Enough of the MOSFET though, let's move on to the full cylinder. So I've got the stock VFC cylinder head right here, and I've got the upgrade ZCI cylinder right here. So I'm just going to press the two of them together. Now, if your cylinder head's pretty loosely seated into your cylinder, what you can do is you can take some Teflon tape, or even if it's incredibly loose, you can take some electrical tape and wrap it around the circumference of the cylinder head where the O-ring is, so you can get a better air seal on your cylinder. However, with this one, I don't need to do that because it fits just nice and tight, and there is no need to use Teflon tape. We're going to get a great air seal here. Got the piston head here with an O-ring, and I got the ZCI full cylinder here with the VFC cylinder head. I've got some lubrication on my finger here, so I'm going to apply it to the inside of the cylinder and test our compression. Alright. We are getting a perfect air seal. That's what I'm talking about. Let's test it with the air seal nozzle and tappet plate. Next item of business, the SHS tappet plate. Now, you may think installing a tappet plate, that's quite an easy ordeal. It's not even really that hard of a task. You just kind of throw it in. However, there are a few things you want to keep an eye out for. I bring your attention to the middle of the tappet plate. There are two prongs here that sit on the tappet plate in the middle underneath of it that really do nothing, if you ask me. And the problem is with them is when they go back, when the tappet plate cycles, it catches on the trigger shuttle spring here, and what this does is it can cause the tappet plate to slow down, and when it returns it can get a bad air seal as a result. I've had FPS problems that have originated just from these two prongs, and eliminating them has gotten me a much better FPS. So I'll be right back, and I'm going to eliminate these two prongs with my Dremel. As you can see, I have removed the two prongs on the SHS tappet plate, and it moves back and forth perfectly fine. Let's check one more thing with this tappet plate, and then we'll be done with it. I have the VFC gearbox closed and screwed down and the SHS tappet plate inside, and we are going to check and see if the tappet plate can move freely. Hey, there you go, it can. Now the reason why we check this is because SHS and, ACM company or Airsoft China manufacturer company messes up a lot as far as quality control goes. So we like to check and make sure that SHS parts, and any part for that matter, fits fine. If this were to be tight and I were to just throw it together and not even check, it could break the tappet plate in the first couple cycles. So we want to make sure that it fits properly. And as you can see, it fits just fine. Alright, so now we're ready to install the SHS air nozzle. We're checking two things with this air nozzle. See if it fits on our tappet plate just fine, and it does. It's not super loose, it's not super tight. I prefer them to be tighter than looser, to be honest, but this one, it'll suffice. And then we're going to test air seal. And so it fits just fine onto our cylinder head. Sometimes they don't fit so fine. They're either too tight or they're too loose. They're not the right size, so I like to check these things. And we're going to check our air seal with it. And our air seal is perfect. We're very close to it. It's near impossible to get an absolutely perfect air seal, especially with everything going here. However, you have to do the absolute best you can, and this is pretty dang good. I've got everything installed in the gearbox, well, almost everything, and we're almost ready to go. Got the SHS M120 spring right here, and it is an irregular pitch spring, meaning that the coils are spaced differently throughout the spring. Towards the rear they're spaced pretty close, in the middle they're spaced decently close, and towards the front they are spaced decently far apart. So I'm going to go ahead and install the spring, close the gearbox, and see how it sounds. Well, I've got the VFC all put back together, and I'm just reminded of how beautiful this gun actually is. Now, I've got my 11.1 volt 1300 mod 25 to 50 C11.1 volt LiPo battery, and I bet you guys are just dying to hear it cycle. So, let's do just that. That was semi, and this is incredibly reactive. I actually love how fast semi is in this gun. 28 TPA motor, 10 to 1 SSG gears just make it super reactive, and there's hardly a slag time at all. Full auto. Full auto is just beautiful. 23 to 25 RPS on 11.1 volt LiPo battery. If you're going to hook up a 7.4, you're probably going to get around 12 to 13, maybe 14 to 15 RPS. I don't know that off the top of my head. I'll have to plug this up to Audacity to get a proper reading. Now you guys may notice I did change out the stock VFC grip for a standard ZCI M4 grip. Now before you guys start yelling at me for changing what is a beautiful gun externally, I do have my reasons. The stock VFC grip has tons of room on the inside. This causes the motor to wobble back and forth every single time you pull the trigger because when the motor starts it twists and it bounces around in there. With all that room it makes the shimming sound horrendous no matter how perfect you actually set it. In addition, the motor plate on the VFC grip is just poorly designed. It's a disaster of a piece, honestly. Long story short, it makes setting permanent, proper motor height near impossible. And by near impossible, I mean actually really impossible. So I had to change it out for this stock VFC grip. I actually like how the black accents on this dark tan here. It doesn't look half bad, and stock VFC grips, upgrade grips are actually fantastic. I love them. I've got one on my DSG, and I wouldn't swap it out for anything because I've got proper motor height with it. Well, that'll have to do it for this episode of Epic Upgrade Time. This is part 2 of our 4-part series, VFC M27 Epic Milsim build. I'll see you guys next time for when we install Lonex 70-degree bucking and some R-hop. But until then, I'm TheAirsoftTech, and this build is halfway there. I'll see you guys next time.